I take a nap?
Maybe that should be a new podcast. Welcome as I take a nap.
Joe talks eBay while Cory sleeps. Joe, what's going on the eBays?
Don't worry, folks. I'll wake him up. Jack Kirby!
Huh?
Oh, what? I'm awake. Did you ever do your Jack Kirby episode?
Not yet. We don't need it yet.
I know. I'd never know if you did. I always thought that was kind of just a good placeholder, just in case.
I've decided I'm going to talk about the Jack Kirby Stan Lee graphic novel from '78 when I do it.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, just something. Is there anything about Jack Kirby you haven't talked about? Well,
well, there is the Red Skull mask that Mark Evanier wore in the background of one of his pictures. Go to Mark Evanier's blog right now. That's the top story.
That's funny. See, they got me yawning. I actually thought I might get up early and brave rush hour traffic over to that sale in the TC sale.
Yeah.
Just because I figured I won't have time to do the 2-3 hour digging like I love to do. But I figured I'd go over there, see what the big books are that they offer. Although last time he wasn't offering usually he used to do like half price, these big books.
Yeah.
Last time he wasn't doing as big, and the books weren't as big.
Which hadn't he sold off most of them?
That's what I thought was odd. I would have thought, you sold off the good stuff, and now the stuff that remains, you're only doing like 20% off or 30, or it was not enough for me to get to buy any. After that, I might dig through the sets. What I really love to do is go through the independent books, because that's where I tend to score the crazy shit that I put on eBay. You pick up a book and you're like, holy shit. The other one that kills me is Remix is doing a sale on his underground stuff, which he usually doesn't leave out because he has a lot of kids out. And that's on Saturday, Sunday. Well, he opens at noon. I got to be to work by 11:30. Same thing. I just go looking for things that like, oh, yeah, I could flip that. But there's always independents and sometimes undergrounds that I've been looking for. And I'm like, oh, I'll pick that up. That looks like it'd be kind of fun. But that's just kind of the gist of my summer. All these sales coming by that I can't go to.
I will be going to the sale on Saturday. I'm going to get there super early, so I have the rest of the day just to not do anything.
Now, that's the caveat. If I don't get my ass up tomorrow morning, I'm going Saturday. Early Saturday, which would be cool. But I only got about, unless I call in and just say, I'm going to be a couple hours late, which I probably won't. I figure I get there at 9, leave by 10:30. That'd give me an hour and a half to dig. But I really want to go because if I go and I really like what I'm seeing, like I said, the last sale wasn't that impressive. I mean, I barely filled a long box. Whereas the previous sales, I filled like 2 long boxes, sometimes more. So I'm kind of curious to see what's up. But I've been hearing people finding all sorts of shit at Midway Books. I'm thinking I might take a trek over there and just see if I can't get into the basement. Because a lot of times they're saying, yeah, I'm finding stuff. They never bothered to reprice. I don't even think they know what they got. They're just like, yeah, whatever.
Do they even carry new books at all?
I do not believe they do.
Then they probably are just out of it. They don't know. It's just comics. Who cares?
Yeah. But some of the things that people are finding, you're like, oh, that would have been interesting. But then I also got to stop and think, you found a Hunger Dog graphic novel. Would I really have picked it up, or would I have just, I got it. I don't need it. Even the flip would be like, is that something anybody even cares about nowadays? Or especially with all the omnibuses and stuff out?
Let's see what it's selling for. Hunger Dogs eBay. 54, 74, 55, nice. 35. Oh, that's just the posters going for 35. So let's go for around 50 to 70 bucks.
Yeah, I suppose if they never reprint it, somebody's always going to want the first print. I am laughing though at the people. Oh, they should have done better with Captain Marvel, and I'm like, they did. Nobody cared. That's why they killed him off.
Yeah, on one of the groups, we should just start the show. I'll drop in an opening. Well, we'll record the opening at the end.
Okay.
One of the Facebook groups, somebody was saying, yeah, I like Monty Grambo, Captain Marvel, but I wish they wouldn't have had him name her Captain Marvel. They should have kept Marvel, blah, blah, blah. And I pointed out, as I always do when it comes up, they tried everything to get it to sell. Everything. When in the early 70s, they put Gil Kane and Roy Thomas, who were about as sure a sales draw as you could get. And no one cared. After Starlin, they put on Steve Englehart, who was Marvel's #1 writer. Nobody cared. No matter what they did, the book didn't sell. So eventually, by around issue 45 or so, it's just print it bi-monthly. We got to keep it going for the copyright.
Yeah.
And it was, okay, Doug Mensch can learn how to write superhero books. Scott Edelman's under contract. We'll have him write it. And they just didn't care because they had tried everything. Then Death of Phoenix. Was Death of Phoenix before or after?
I think it was before.
Yeah, it was, because it was 81.
Yeah,
and Death of Captain Marvel was 82. They went, oh man, the Death of Phoenix sold through the roof. Let's kill him to start off our graphic novel line. Because Marvel had ads in everything for it.
Yeah.
And no matter what they did, just Marvel did not sell. If you go back and read those early stories, you can see why. It's just such a dull character.
It smacks of like current fanboys just, retroactively ignoring the facts, like what you said. They tried. It didn't sell. It doesn't matter if you think it's a great character. It could have been a great character. Nobody then cared. And of course, I've had that same revelation. I mean, I always thought, well, yeah, you should kill off Iceman and Angel because they suck. Nobody cares. But eventually it becomes, you gotta wait for the right reader to come along, or the right writer or creative team. In this case, though, they blew the water off with that first graphic novel. I mean, I got to collecting the Marvel graphic novels, even ones that probably shouldn't have been printed. It took me a long time before I finally broke that. I don't have to buy every one they do. Kind of like with the super specials. It was the same thing. It's like, they're doing a super special. What? I got all of them, but that's okay. That's part of the fanboyisms.
Speaking of being a fanboy,
yay!
We've been reading tons of comics.
We have been.
And rather than cluttering up our freaking and geeking,
which we do pretty well anyways,
why don't we do some reviews?
That's a marvelous idea.
Joe, would you like to go first?
Sure. The first one I read is called Not My Bag from, I believe it's Sina Grace. He's the artist of The Little Depressed Boy. I also caught him on his one-shot he did, Self-Obsessed, which is an autobiographical one-shot I think I've talked about in the past. This was just published by Image, and I picked it up. I know the creator, and I like him, but also it dealt with him taking a job at a high-end department store. And while I never worked a high-end department store, I did work commission when I was at Sears. So anytime you get into that frame, or it's part of the framework of the story, I instantly fall for it because I remember those days standing around at Sears, not getting paid, and eventually they went to, okay, you get a minimum paid, and if you got returns, you got to, it's just, unless you're a shark, and he talks about that even in the book, unless you're a shark, or in my case, what kept me at Sears so long was the fact that I was the computer guy. And we're talking, this is when IBM came out with their clones, and they were XTs, and then came 286 and 386. I mean, this was essentially probably the late 80s. Do you remember I left in 92 in order to open my own comic store? So probably around, I'd say probably about that time, because I do remember in college when they started word processing. So you had the XT IBM clone, and you had two 5 1/4 drives. One was for you to save your paper, and the other one was to borrow the WordPerfect, put it in the machine, and activate it. Because the idea of having a hard drive on your machine. Oh my God, a 10 megabyte hard drive? What the hell would I ever use that much space for? I'll stick with the floppies, thank you. Well, you could get these 3.5. No, nobody wants 3.5 floppies. And never last. Those early days. So yeah, this was back when I did that. And of course, our big fight was always with Best Buy, because Sears had the problem of buying for thousands of stores, whereas Best Buy had a smaller footprint, and they could go and buy, well, Sears has this brand new XT computer, state of the art, but we're buying last year's model, and we can sell it for $300 less. And for mom and pop cattle who are coming to buy. Anyways, so he gets into that about being on the sales floor. It also deals with him learning high fashion when he really wants to be a comic artist. And the problem is he gets good at it. And eventually he starts hanging around. You know, he's being told by upper management, we got plans for you, but do they? And eventually, I don't know if you want me to give a spoiler warning, but I give a 2-second spoiler warning. Uno, dos, tres. But you didn't know I could count that high in Spanish. You know, he does leave because he finally gets to realize, you know, I'm just wasting my time here, not doing what I want to do. They're kind of guilting me into staying. We did this for you, we did that to you. And I'm not saying Sears did that to me, because when you say you're going to go, I had reasons to go. But there was always that type of, I don't know, pump up your ass type thing going on. Like, oh, you can sell maintenance agreements. You are much better. Not everybody can do this job. So when you leave, or you get, nobody really fired at Sears, because then they'd have to pay you unemployment. So they just did their damnedest to get you to leave. And then when they left, you always felt superior to them. Which really is probably why I hung around for 10 years. It was really a dumb reason to hang. I should have bailed on Sears long ago. And I probably would have still hung with it if it wasn't for the fact that I figured out how to do a comic shop. So again, this tugs at my heartstrings. The art is black and white. It's in a smaller graphic novel prose, done in one. Retail only $12.99. Obviously, your mileage will vary. Story's really straightforward. The art's really good. He puts the characters he runs into, both outside in the fashion world, in his inner circle, including people that are like, his lovers, his companions. People are saying, you should really be doing more with your art. So you are able to follow along with what he's doing. And I don't know if this is fiction. To me, it reads like it doesn't. I mean, I think this he may have wasted time doing this. I don't know. It's a haunting retail hell story like you've never encountered before. A young artist takes his job at a department store in order to make ends meet. Little does he know that he may meet his end. Kind of a comedic gothic tale. So I think it's probably fiction. Again, if you want to do his autobiographical thing, you can probably pick up a copy of Self-Obsessed. I found mine in the dollar bins that I frequent all over the place. Let's see, he has also done indie miniseries books with pictures, the Neo Choir Cedric Hollows, and Dial M for Magic. And of course, he is the artist for S. Stephen Strubble's The Little Depressed Boy, which surfaces here and there. So he's in Los Angeles. So if you happen to be hearing from us, Mr. Grace, we'd love to hear from you if this is autobiographical or just, maybe based on something, because it really resonated with me. Our goal on reviews is buy, borrow, or ignore. I bought it. If it sounds interesting to you, you could probably borrow it somewhere. Being that it's just published, you might, I don't know. Boy, since Big Brain Comic folded, I don't see a lot of shops in town carrying this. So ideally it's through Image. Maybe they did pick it up, but if you get a chance, I recommend it, as well as his other works, because I enjoyed him thoroughly. So that's it for me. Not my bag. Image Comics from Sign of Grace. Cory?
First book I'm going to review is one that you recommended last week.
Ooh.
Beware the Eye of Odin.
Can I give a little freaking?
Sure.
I had the opportunity to run up to a local comic store in Cambridge and meet the artist and have it autographed, but I didn't do it. I should have done it. I should have listened to the chat and just say yes and do it. But I was kind of like, oh, geez, it's an hour up there, an hour back. But now I'll listen in to see what you think about it.
It is written by Doug Wagner, drawn by Tim Odland. We kind of start in the middle of the story. We start off with our main character talking about how his father told him stories of Norse mythology and he didn't believe them. But now he's got the Eye of Odin and he needs to return it. So that will be his quest story. It is set in, it's kind of set in wherever whatever in the Nordic realms you want it to be. It's more fantasy than reality. It starts off our main character. He's now got this quest. We find out his backstory, that the people of the town think that he is cursed. And as he leaves, there's a woman who believes she is a Valkyrie because she has a coat made of feathers. And it looks like the town's weaponsmith goes with him. And it's very much a fantasy quest story. They're going to be traveling together. We don't know the background. We don't know if his female companion is really a Valkyrie or if she's crazy. There are magical creatures. There's a haunted forest. There are trolls and giants and other magical creatures that they will face on the way there. The art is not like most indie comic art, which seems to be now either sort of a realistic style or an anime style. This is more drawn like a hyper fantasy book style, where it seems more like the art isn't trying to find the best way to put this. The art doesn't fall into any normal comic category, but it does not look like it would be out of place on the cover of a fantasy novel of the 80s. There's some whimsy to it. Weaponsmith is drawn like Arnold Schwarzenegger's just too small a human being. The character faces for even the supporting characters have a lot of personality. And one of the things that I've been wanting from comics for a while, and I've been reading older comics for it, is a fantasy story. And this is a fantasy story that plays with the Norse mythology without diving into all the stuff we know from all the Thor comics over the years. I really enjoyed this. And for a first issue, it's very packed. It's 40 pages of story, and it moves at a good clip. We get a lot of background on our main character. We get nice dialogue between all of the characters. I really enjoyed this. It reminded me a lot of the fantasy novels that I would read in the 80s, where they didn't take themselves very seriously. They had some humor, they had character bits, and it drew you in with the characters, and the humor would then lead to the dramatic situations. I was really impressed with this book. I give it a buy. It's pretty clear it's going to be a single story, unless when they're done they do another one. But it reads very much like they're going to go on this quest, and the quest is the tale of the comic. I give it a buy. I highly recommend it. And Joe, I want to thank you for recommending it.
Cool. For my next one, I've got Hit Me from AWA. It's written by Krista Faust, who is as scary as she is good looking, because she apparently she worked in the Times Square Peep Booth and later as a fetish model and a professional dominatrix.
And has written some kick-ass novels.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm just looking at her whole story. It's drawn by Priscilla Traits. Again, if I slaughtered your name, Priscilla, just you know what to do. Give us a call and yell at us. I've got 3 issues of the 5, and essentially, I'm trying to find the character's name here. You were introduced to a young woman who charges a flat rate for parts. All right, let me see if I can do this. I'm just going to read the first couple word balloons here. Spanking is cheap. If you want to hit me in the face, it's $50 or more. $100 if you want to use a closed fist. That's not even counting the fee for marks. I charge a flat rate for parts of my body that can be covered by clothing, double for my face, neck, and hands. When I say marks, I'm talking bruises, contusions, hematomas, burns, cuts, welts, or any other visible injury that takes more than 6 hours to heal. Try something you haven't paid for. My guard dog will show up and treat you to a little non-sensual role reversal. If you don't like it, you can try your luck at trendy nightclubs. Essentially, she takes money to allow men and possibly women to hit her. Hence the name Hit Me. And Danny's her guard dog. And I'm still trying to find the name of the female protagonist, but we're introduced to her world, and it's the underbelly of the place. People that she don't know. There's people that, she's had as clients. And there's somebody who she's going to meet up with, Mr. Tack, who is he always needs something to do with his hands. And when they get together, she says, he really lets me have it. I feel it for a week. So as she's getting ready, prepared, and she has her guard dog Danny waiting, as she walks into the room, just in time to see Mr. Tack get killed. There's a gunshot. By the time she's finished, the guy who's doing the shooting is dead. There's another body. Danny, her bodyguard, is down. She picks up a bag full of diamonds, and they run. And of course, who said anything about a hospital? She's going to a professional pain slut to get fixed. Just amazing, crazy book. I don't know if AWA does things in order to be a movie. I can't see this one being done. Maybe miniseries on like Netflix or something. The art is fantastic. You have no problems figuring out who is who. The story moves around crazy. I lucked out. I was able to read the first 3 issues, and I am dying for the next 2. I'm pretty sure as by the time this podcast hit, the 4th issue will be out. I believe the trade's actually already been solicited, so if you're quick on draw, you could probably get this. A murder mystery with just an attractive protagonist doing crazy things. A concept, I mean, we've all, yeah, whatever, the protagonist is a prostitute and she does this. This is kind of a little different. She's not really a sexual prostitute, but if you need a woman to beat up, she'll do it for a fee. Don't try to do anything beyond that, though. That's what Danny's for. Just an amazingly, I don't know what else to say without sounding like a pervert, but I'm enjoying this series. Just crazy. Variant covers to choose from. They should all be on the stands even as we speak. And again, Christopher Frost is on the. I actually ordered this, and I probably recommended it as part of our preview show before I even knew she was soliciting it on her Facebook page. And this is the type of thing that I cannot stress enough for creators in this environment. I mentioned before the artist in Eye of Odin. What was his name again, Cory?
Tim Odland.
Yeah, he's a local guy. Had I known that, we probably could have hunted him down and had him on the podcast. But if you want to contact us, blurb it. Again, Krista mentioned it on her Facebook page. The art of self-promotion is critical in these, I don't know, what did we say, fractured times. Just getting our attention is hard enough, much less getting me to buy anything. You know, like Beware the Eye of Odin. I don't recall if I ordered it, but I definitely will be picking it up either next time I hit the source or just wait for the inevitable graphic novel. Same thing with Hit Me from AWA. I've got the first 3 issues. I definitely put this, again, if this may not be your cup of tea, you know, paying to hit a woman, crime novel, whatever. You decide. I buy it. I recommend it. And where I got the comic, like I said, the trade should be coming out soon. So, I almost hate to say I really enjoyed the book, but it was just fascinating to me. So that's my second pick for the day. Cory?
For Krista Faust, the books I have read that I would recommend are Chokehold, which was from Hard Case Crime, Money Shot, also from Hard Case Crime, and she did the novelization of Snakes on a Plane.
Oh, I've got Bad Mother that she did. I don't have all of it, which is why I haven't read it, but I was pleasantly surprised that I was smart enough to actually pick that up. And she's done some other comics, and I'm sure as we run across them, we'll mention it.
She's done a Marvel comic.
I'm trying to find her biography here. Let's see.
She did Silver Sable and the Wild Pack issue 36. Remember when Marvel did that?
Yeah.
Where they put out another issue of a bunch of books? Yep. She did Silver Sable.
See, she did Peepland with Titan Comics. Bad Mother I mentioned earlier. That was AWA as well with Mike Deodato, so I probably got it sitting back. Redemption with Mike Deodato. I mentioned Hit Me. And you can find her at KristaFoss.com as well as on Facebook. And ironically enough, her website is not secure.
The next book that I have is the first of a series called Skybound Presents, and it is the story Afterschool. This is a horror comic. I can't tell if it's a one-shot because it says episode 1. It may be that this is a series of one-shots, but this was a done-in-one horror comic written by Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, drawn by Greg Hinkle. It's about a girl who's not good at anything in high school, has trouble getting through school, has trouble getting through the day, and then she is given a dog that helps her with her anxiety. The problem is, there's something odd about this dog. And from there, it becomes a horror story. And it held my attention. It's double size, so it's 40 pages. It held my attention the entire 40 pages. It kept pulling me through. The art is very loose, very personalized, almost sketchy in a lot of ways, but it works for this story. The coloring of the dog lets you know something's different about it right away. And I like the fact that they use the coloring to tell part of the story, because until, I would say the last 20 years, coloring was just, okay, we need to make it look like it's in color. But with color effects and artists doing more, learning they can do more and not having to like stick to kind of standard stuff, they can experiment more with the art. And the fact that they are experimenting with the coloring works as well. I also like the fact that this is a done in one. So it reads, I wouldn't say it reads like a novel. It reads like I would say a long short story. And like any good short story, it has a quick hit. Short stories shouldn't be about developing characters and about developing long plot lines. A short story gets in, makes its point, and leaves. And the writers of this comic understand that. The story comes in, makes its point, and leaves. My only problem with the fact that it is a short story, kind of a longer short story, because of the size of the book, it does cost a little more than your average comic. Let's see here, it's $4.99, which, for a story you're going to read in about 20 to 30 minutes is not cheap. So because of the price, I waver a little bit, but because the story is so well done, and you're going to be reading it more than once because of how well done it is, and I enjoyed the art style, I'm going to give this a buy. And the Skybound Presents series, I'm going to be seeing what they do. I like the idea of an anthology comic series, and Image is doing more and more of these. Ice Cream Man is an anthology horror series. It has some continued characters, but each issue kind of reads on its own. So I don't know if we'll know what's going on with this till the second issue. But I did enjoy it. I thought it was well done. And I'm not going to say I'm a huge horror fan, but this was a good little horror story. Joe?
The next one I'm going with, I've talked about in the past. I bought at Target because it was 28% off, 25 with my red card discount. Teen Titans Beast Boy Loves Raven by Cami Garcia and Gabriel Piccolo. And this one is actually a New York Times bestseller. These are the young adult line graphic novels that DC's been pushing and that Cory and I mentioned periodically when we read through our previews. I bought this one just because I couldn't find it anywhere else at any comic store. And it happened to be at Target. It happened to have an okay price on it. And I thought, you know what? I'll pick it up. Even though now you can buy them as low as $6.19, $6.08 on eBay. Normal price is $16.99, so I got about $10 on it. I was curious about it because of the free comic book day giveaway, and I picked it up and I read it. It's already a series of novels. One, I believe the first one was Beast Boy, and then there was one on Raven. And then this kind of deals with how they meet, their paths cross because of a mysterious. I don't think I'm giving away stuff because if you know Teen Titans, you're going to know who I'm talking about. When I say Slade, you know exactly who I'm talking about. But for someone who's never read these, aka the young reader, they probably don't. Oh, well, maybe they did. Maybe they saw it on the cartoon or the TV show. But, we know him as Deathstroke, and he's basically doing something attracting superpowered individuals together under the guise that I can help you. I can help you, Raven, get rid of your demonic uncle, your father that's trapped in your psyche. I can help you, Beast Boy, with your uncontrolled changes in animals. He also makes this offer to who we later find out his name is, I guess, Damien, aka Robin, who gets involved. And as the story continues and goes on, yeah, there's romance involved. They confront just what Slade's up to, if not Slade himself. Robin gets involved. And what's interesting is when you finally get to the end of it, there's a little thing that says the next book will be out in the spring of 2023. So it's not like there's a terrible amount of these books that you have to read in order to catch up. Matter of fact, not knowing what happened in the previous two was irrelevant. I was able to catch up fairly easy without the standard comic book, okay, I'm going to spend the first splash page explaining everything. No, you catch what's going on as things progress. A wonderful story, not really aimed at me. Granted, I did buy this. For someone of our age group, Cory, I would say this is on the borrow list. If you have young readers in your household and you want to get them caught up and stuff, because my guess is as you're reading these are Teen Titans, high schooler type people. I would to my daughters when they were of that age. And for me, for the next story, I will probably end up, if I don't buy it cheap somewhere used, I'll probably just borrow it from the library, like I'm going to borrow the previous albums. But it's a wonderful, wonderful book. I enjoyed it thoroughly. It's not aimed at me, but that didn't mean I didn't. But I enjoyed it. I was going to give a double negative there, but try to remember my old grammar rules. What's interesting, and they also give a little preview sneak peek and back for Constantine, Distorted Illusions by Cami Garcia and Isaac Goodhart. The black and white, again, the same type of thing. It's a younger character trying to get the jive of what Constantine's going through. This is coming in the fall of 2022. These are just fantastic line. And if I had a comic store, when I had my comic store, I would have died to have these books, just waiting for younger readers. Cory remembers I had a whole book rack full of all the young kids' stuff. And I would scour cons looking for cheap Archies and Disneys and things like that I could put out. And now DC and Marvel and a few others, they're actually going after this audience with a gusto. So I applaud it. Even though, like I said, it's not aimed at me, I enjoyed it. I think what I love most about it is just there's no continuity to it. I don't have to know years. Is this pre-DC or Flashpoint or New 52 or Old 52 or is Damian currently mad at Robin or whatever. So just kind of a breath of fresh air. For us normal guys, I would say borrow it. If you have someone in your family, buy it and read it yourself before you give it to them. Cory?
For the comic I'm coming up with next is the new Fantastic Four #1.
Oh, I didn't get mine yet.
First issue came out yesterday. Do yourself a favor, pick up that wraparound cover by Art Adams because it's beautiful. This comic is written by Peter David, who did not write the original story, but he was writing Hulk at the time, and has written Spider-Man. Drawn by Alan Robinson, who, boy, he draws a lot like Art Adams. Doesn't have as much of the fine detail and cross-hatching, but the way he draws faces and bodies and facial expression, very much the same. And like any good Peter David story, this is a story that has some meat on its bones. What it is set not long after Fantastic Four 347 and 349, which is when we got the new Fantastic Four, which was the Mr. Fix-It Hulk, Ghost Rider, Spider-Man, and Wolverine. And the reason we got that as the new Fantastic Four was because Walt Simonson was joking around, well, if I really wanted to raise sales, I'd put these characters in it. Oh, why don't I do that?
And it worked. I remember Gruber and I ordering like multiple copies of it for resale.
It doesn't, it stays in Marvel continuity, but it doesn't become straitjacketed to Marvel continuity. And the reason it's in Marvel continuity is it's the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider, it's the Mr. Fix-It Hulk, but Spider-Man and Wolverine could be Spider-Man and Wolverine from any time period. The gist of the story is that something is happening in Las Vegas, and there's mystic stuff going on that has drawn these four characters together to deal with a problem of a demon infestation in Las Vegas. As with most Peter David stuff, there's humor. The humor is based on character. There's also some little plot threads that are dropped in that aren't going to pay off for 3 or 4 issues. It's a 5-issue miniseries. It sets everything up. Unlike a lot of these continuity implant miniseries that Marvel is doing, you don't need to know anything about what happened in the past. They fill you in on what you need to know and just barrel forward. I thought this was a fun comic. And it's one of the things that I've talked about a lot over the last few years. I like a serious comic that's going to be art. I like a comic that is going to speak to us about things that are important. But you know what? A lot of the comics I read for fun. I want to ride that roller coaster. I want to see Spider-Man soap opera. I went to Fantastic Four to go see new things. This is just comic. Lots of fighting, lots of banter, lots of just old school Marvel fun. I enjoyed this, and Alan Robinson's art blew me away. Because as I'm reading it, it's not aping Art Adams, but boy, he sure has the same sort of style. And that sort of hyper-realism mixed with animation art style that he uses works really well here. I really enjoyed this, and there are some character designs that I swear he had to have gone to Art Adams and go, could you draw me this character so that I could draw just like it? I know he didn't, but boy, it sure seems like it. This is a buy. However, I'm going to be honest, you should wait till it's a trade paperback, because you're going to have to wait and buy it every month, and this is made to be a trade paperback, and hopefully they do it where you get the original New Fantastic Four story and this New Fantastic Four story in one trade paperback, because they fit perfectly. Joe?
I've been to jail twice in my life. First was on petty drug possession charge. The second was for what court calls costume aggression, whatever that means. And that was just jail. Never been to prison. Prison scares me. You're always here to keep a low profile. Don't make yourself known. Couldn't be tough for the guy who killed the world's most famous superhero. Did I get your attention? Then you should probably run out and pick up UltraMax #1 from Source Point Press. Doug Wood writes it. Michael Picard draws it, colored by... I shouldn't have gone there because I cannot pronounce it. Warnia Shadua? Sorry, Warnita, call me. That is probably what caught my attention in previews. Just, okay, you're dealing with the guy who killed the world's most famous superhero. And it's not that, as far as I can tell reading it, that this guy necessarily has any superpowers. He just happened to kill it. So you kind of take a little bit of Oz, a little bit of comic book. The art is great. You can tell who's who. The coloring's very dark, very moody. Not all the time, though. I mean, when you're out in the middle of the courtyard playing basketball, it's bright and sunny. You don't know what's going to happen to this guy. You know he's a marked man. You know, you kind of get that from when he has a quick talk with the warden. There's mystery going on. You don't know who he can trust, can't trust. And the cliffhanger at the end just is like, oh, it's killing me. I've only got one issue of this, but I want to alert you to it because it's just fascinating. It ties into superheroes. It's a bit of the superhero realm that they probably couldn't pull off at Marvel and DC, maybe Image, but Source Point Press is doing it. I believe it's 4 issues, if I recall. If you want to hold on a second, I'm just going to look on what I do when I order stuff is always write down how many issues it's going to be, because nothing drives me crazier than looking for another issue and you realize, oh, I got all the issues. I could have been reading that months ago. And it looks like it's 4 issues. Source Point Press does put out graphic novels. I don't know how reliable they are about doing it because I just pick these things up as straight comic. So based on the first issue alone, absolutely enjoying it. It's got my eye. This will be one of those that when I get my box day, I'm going to dig out issue 2, put it in the gotta read pile right away just to see what the heck's happening. I believe issue 2 is on the stands. Issue 3 is due out in July, any moment now. Looks like the first of each month, so who knows by the time this podcast hits. So look forward. No, well, we might be a week away from it. So definitely pick this one up, a different slice of what's going on. Plus, you're never quite sure. We know people are gunning for him, but who's gunning for him? Someone that wants to make a name for himself? Is he guilty of doing this? You're not even quite sure if he's guilty of doing it. So just an amazing mixture of different genres all put into a type of superhero genre. So again, UltraMax, Source Point Press, definitely worth a buy.
And our last review is another book that Joe recommended, and that is 8 Billion Genies. Written by Charles Soule, drawn by Ryan Brown, coming out from Image. The first issue started. We actually start in St. Clair Shores, Michigan at the Lampwick Bar and Grill. It's a dive bar that has bands, and the first part of it is that the band has shown up. There aren't a lot of people there. The band is having some personal issues. The owner of the bar is kind of a wise old gentleman. We get to know some of the people in the bar. And then all of a sudden, everybody on Earth is given their own genie. And they get one wish. Now, you would think that inside the bar we're going to be dealing with this. But no, the owner says, I'm going to pull up exactly what he says here, because with genies, you have to be precise.
Like if you say you want a chick with long legs, you'll end up with an ostrich.
I wish that no wish made outside this bar can affect this bar or anyone or anything inside it. And a few pages later, you look outside and you see the chaos of everyone getting their wish. So we've got a story where the people in this bar are the only people not affected by the chaos outside. It is a great first issue hook. I don't know if they could pull off a story, because one of the things that I've been reading a lot about, and every so often I'll watch those videos of, 10 times blah, blah, blah. And one of the videos I watched within the last month or so was 10 TV pilots that were much better than the series that came after. And this is something where if Soule doesn't have this completely planned out with a great ending, it is going to fall apart fast. but I'm going to trust that he does, because he has this section here where it's okay. I wish that no wish made outside the bar could affect this bar or anyone or anything inside it. And it has a sequence where someone made a wish outside the bar. When they come into the bar, the wish is gone, and they deal with the repercussions of that. The art is a lot like that, a lot like the Skybound book that I talked about earlier. It's very scratchy. I like that style. The genies are drawn in a very anime way, but the people are drawn in a more realistic way. But the art, it's not like he's trying to recreate reality. It's kind of scratchy. It's kind of draws attention to the fact that it's art. I enjoy it. I think the storytelling is fantastic too. The panel-to-panel work, the information that is delivered on pages, the way they move the story forward, the way we get breaks in the story to not see what's going on in the world, but see the after effects of what's going on in the world. I absolutely enjoyed it. This was a fun comic. Again, there's that word, fun. But this is one where it's all going to depend on the payoff at the end. So right now I'm calling it a borrow. If they're able to stick the landing, it'll be a buy. If they're not able to stick the landing, it'll be an ignore. So this is one where it's a borrow. Just kind of, again, I would wait for the trade paperback and read a review to see if they pull it off or not. And you know who always does pull it off, Joe?
No, I don't.
These guys, our sponsors. Our newest sponsor is NordVPN. Let's be honest, if you're out on the internet, you need a VPN to protect you. There's all sorts of things going on the internet where people can track you. You could accidentally download a keylogger, all sorts of things. NordVPN gives the best security possible. It has a password manager which generates complex passwords, syncs across all your devices, stores your notes and credit card information. It also gives you 10 gigabytes of private cloud storage, secure files. It backs up your data automatically. But the main thing it gives you is peace of mind. It gives you peace of mind when you're out on the internet, when you're streaming, when you're playing games, when you're listening to podcasts like this one. It gives you safety anywhere at any time. It protects your online activity. You get full access to all content. And if you use the link go.nordvpn.net sh3ku, it'll take you to where you can get a great deal for a 1-month plan, a 2-year plan, a 1-year plan. They are our newest sponsor. We're happy to have them. And if you would like to sponsor something here at any of the podcasts on the Solitaire Rose Network, you can. Just email me, solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. Thanks. And even though I feel like I've been running at 1,000 miles an hour the past couple weeks, I do all these other podcasts. The Solitaire Rose Podcast Network is filled with all kinds of audio goodness. First, there's Crazy Comics and Stories. It's been going since 2010. It drops every Monday, and it has me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard, and Joe Crazy Writer talking comics, shenanigans, and whatever we're freaking and geeking about. Every Monday morning. It's been going since 2010, and it's available at crazycomics.solitairerose.com. Also on that same feed is the Solitaire Rose Podcast, which is me, again, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard, doing interviews, talking about comics history, pretty much talking about whatever I want to talk about. We've also got Solo Joe, where Joe Crazy Writer does a solo podcast. And he hasn't done one in a while, so kick him in the shins to get him started. We also, on that same feed, have Solitaire Rose Series and Review, where we do DVD commentary of older comic book series. That's all at crazycomics.solitairerose.com. I also do a podcast with Wolfie B. Bad at badadvice.solitairerose.com, where we take listener questions and give them bad advice. There's also Novelcast, where I take the novels I've written and turn them into free audiobooks. That's at novels.solitairerose.com. There's also Fantastic Forecast, where myself and Adam Vermillion are going through the entire run of the Fantastic Four, 4 issues at a time. That's fantasticforecast.solitairerose.com. There are always more podcasts at the Solitaire Rose Podcast Network. Be there. Aloha. And now it's time for Joe's favorite part of the show.
Yay!
No, not where he gets all 8 billion wishes for himself.
Oh.
No, it's Joe. What's going on the eBays?
Oh, still cranking away stuff. I've been digging through deep, trying to find things to put up. Some of the things I've sold the last couple days. I mentioned I had some bag copies, the polybag variants of Sex Criminals. Been selling those out. We talked a couple weeks ago about, I think it was called Celestine, the image book that tied in and went through all the different ones. Well, I had the ones that I ended up selling. So, yeah, you're too late for that. Let's see. I had a copy. Cory, did you ever pick up the Dr. Weird special edition? This is the one that Jim Starlin and George R.R. Martin did a number of stories and things in.
Yes, I did. I did pick that up.
Yeah, I had my copy. I read it. It didn't make the cut for keeps, so I put it up, sold it right away. Another one I sold because I discovered I had 2 copies. And let's do a quick one. Cory, does the Strode know? Who appeared for the first time in Marvel Assistant Size Spectacular #2?
Is that the Galactus daughter thing?
Yeah, Galacta. And it's not a cheap book by any means. So how I ended up with 2 copies, I'll never know. But I took the best one, put it out on the eBay. Someone made an offer for it. It is out of here. She's only had 2 appearances, by the way. That, and then, of course, her own special Galacta. Both by Adam Warren. Fantastic, fun stuff. I'd bring her back to God knowing. I don't care what they say. A couple Lady Death. I had a bunch of Lady Death stuff. Put it all up on eBay. Another one that I put together, it's one of those things where I talk about how you make chicken shit out of chicken salad. Basically, there were just a bunch of books that really didn't have a resale value, although at the time they sold pretty well. And they dealt with the Barbie twins, if you remember them back late 80s, early 90s. 2 very voluptuous twins. They went under the Barbie twins. Topps did a comic with them. They also did a calendar. I think they showed up in a Zen book. Barbie twins, Zen Intergalactic Ninja crossover. I became aware of them because at one of the Cap City shows, I ended up getting an ash can that was signed by the creators at the time. The creators being, again, let's see, Rob Conte, C-O-N-T-E, Dave Lepfure. I just put it all together as one set. Just didn't know what to do. I've done that before with things with Neil Gaiman. I've done it before with different titles. So if there's a way, if you got something that ain't worth nothing on itself, make kind of a set for it. Someone's going to have fun with it. If you price it cheap enough, you never know. You know, the only thing that would have made these things maybe stand out is had I actually gotten the Barbie twins to autograph them. And as far as I know, they're off living their own lives, whatever they're doing. I certainly don't see them bouncing around anywhere. So all sorts of other fun things up. I've been spending a lot of time scanning, trying to get decent prices. Put it all up on the eBays. And of course, for you, our valued listeners, if you see anything you want, be sure to just contact me. I had one guy send me an offer, and he did something a bit annoying. I don't want to be too blunt because he obviously listens to the show, because he offered below half, way below half. But he didn't tell me he listened to the show. So naturally I declined it. And then I get an email. And again, I might be reading it more terse than it. I thought you said if you listen to your podcast that you give deals. Well, you have to identify yourself. You
gotta tell us, man.
Yeah, we got a lot of listeners, and there's a few that come and we talk with. Mosaic, who I still need to have words with. Travis. There's a few others that contact us, and we love to get feedback. I gotta tell you, podcasting is kind of like yelling in the wilderness. We don't know if anybody's listening. We hope you are. We hope you enjoy it. We're still doing it. How many years have we done this? 11?
12 and a half.
Oh, man. I can guarantee you got at least another 4.5, because that's when I retire. When I retire, well, I'll be 62. I don't know what we're going to do then.
Probably on my own, aren't I?
Old guys, well, you're nuts. You're going to be doing podcasts till you die.
They will take me out feet first.
He'll have his hand clutching on his mic. And I don't know why he's clutching that. It's never been connected to his computer. Me, I'll probably be slumped over on my eBay sales. So you know where to come get some. KRAYZ, open 24/7. I'd love to give deals to you listeners. Okay, come get some.
And now we get to my favorite part of the show. No, not where I hang up and go read all the stuff that came in box day today.
I don't get my box day for 2 weeks.
No, it's Freaking and Geeking. Joe, what are you freaking on?
Let's see. I got my list here. Otherwise, no, it's not so bad. Still trying to get into the grind of work. I mean, I really enjoyed, it's weird to say, I had surgery, got 4 weeks off, and I enjoyed it. Unlike when I had my hip, there was some serious recovery time on that. I mean, I wasn't mobile for quite some time. And even when I was mobile, it was still hurt, and I had to get my movement back. This one was a little different. I had the hernia. Within a week, I was up and moving. Didn't really do a lot, but I did sit down and do a lot of eBaying. And I had fun doing it. And now I got to get back into this swing of work. And I'm trying not to get in my brain that it feels kind of like prison. But when you have to do it, and by have to, I mean not necessarily money-wise, but, healthcare-wise, it's the only reason I stick with it. It does feel a bit like prison. The other thing I'm freaking on, and again, it's my own, I chose it, so really, I knew it would happen, but it's still freaking me out. Everything happens on the weekend. Remix, by the time this happens, it'll be done, but Remix, one of my favorite shops in Forest Lake, he's pulling out his undergrounds and adult titles and doing a 2-day sale. Same time I'm at work during the weekends. I can't go. I mean, I'm good friends with the guy. I could probably say, hey, I can't make it. Could I come up early? I don't do that shtick. I didn't really like doing it when I had it. My shop, I mean, I always gave my regulars, if you want to come in and get first crack at the sale, because when I did sales, we did silly, crazy sales. But for the most part, they didn't really care because they bought their new stuff. That's what they wanted. Most of them really didn't care about it. The only guys I would see that would come in, and I love seeing them, but they'd be the guys who were, I'm one now, a bottom feeder. They only come for sales. They come for that. So a lot of sales going on, a lot of thrift markets going on. I'm on the Minnesota Comic Squad, and I watch these guys. Oh, I just got this from this sale, or I got this from that sale, and I'm like, I couldn't go. So, and again, maybe with the new bid, I might take a weekend, but then it's wintertime. Who knows goes has sales during the winter? I am off Black Friday though, so I got that going for me, which is nice. Marvel is canceling shit in June left and right. And I just had here it is. My list of books. Here are the titles they have canceled in June. Let's see. Avenger, X-Men, Eternals, Judgment Day, number 4. Immortal X-Men number 6, Amazing Spider-Man 9 and 10, Fantastic Four 47, Genisville number 3, New Fantastic Four 4, Strange number 6, She-Hulk number 6, Thor 28, Predator number 2. That's well over half my order. Now, they also canceled X-Men Legends number 2, which was back in April. Now, the two things that Marvel's doing that drive me nuts is, first of all, when they pre-solicit something and then advertising it later. Like they'll say, oh, well, we got, you're for Savage Avengers number 5. And I'm like, I cannot find it on my order form for this month. Oh, I ordered it 2 months ago. Hate it when they do that. And I hate it when they're doing what they're doing now. Not so much because, they're all going to be resolicited, but when Cory and I order through Discount Comic Book Service, we prepay our orders. That's why we get a bigger discount through them. That means all that money that's tied up in books that I now got credit on, I could have used Marvel to buy something else. But you canceled it. And yeah, you'll get my money for these books eventually. You're just not going to get shit from me in June. I don't know how this is going to affect normal retailers, but I know when you pulled that shit back when I had Crazy Comics, I had to throw in the towel because I realized for that particular month, and this was during Civil War, I wouldn't make enough money to cover my rent. And I was already just at break-even point anyways, trying to decide, do I want to keep this going or do I want to drop it? In hindsight, if any of you happen to be time travelers, you could go back in time and say, bone up Schindler's, who had how many stores? 13 in the Twin Cities?
Yes.
They closed. They closed, and it left such a shock to the Twin Cities that even places like the Source couldn't get enough books in to cover not only their subscribers, but the people that are now shopping at Schindler's. They got nowhere to go, and they started coming to the Source. And I'm sure the other comic stores in town had the same stories. So just kind of like I said, just a freaking that I don't like. Again, they're resoliciting everything, but why are they soliciting it to begin with if they're so far behind on everything? I hope when the previews comes out, the Marvel one, at least it says this is a resolicitation so that I remember it. But again, in my little book that I keep track on, I just use a little pink highlighter, canceled, so I know not to look for it anymore. The other thing I'm freaking on, not really a freaking, but my aunt died of Alzheimer's complication. She's been suffering from it for the last 4 years. Condolences to my uncle, condolences to my father. Everybody's of the same mindset. We're glad she's not suffering. In reality, the horror of the disease is she really wasn't there these last couple of years. Her body was there. Got to be very hard on my Uncle Tom to have to deal with that. So if you get a chance, and I swear this is just an ongoing theme as we're getting older, creators we love are dying off, friends, family are passing away. Just reach out. I use an old Mob Bell thing from the center. Reach out, hug someone, touch someone, keep in contact with them. This day and age, there's no reason not to. Between Facebook, Instagram, phone calls, texts, hell, even an old-fashioned letter. Just give a contact to someone you haven't in a while. Just say, hey, I've been thinking of you. How you doing? We don't always have the luxury like Cory and I do. I treasure talking to him every week doing the podcast here, and I'm glad you guys join us. Just reach out to someone you don't know and just tell them, hey, I haven't heard from you in a while. How you doing? How you doing? So that's for me for freaking. Cory, what you freaking on?
Speaking of Marvel and orders and all that stuff, last month, one of my lowest orders of all time. This month, one of my highest orders of all time.
Are you talking the previews that's coming?
No, the previews that we just did.
Oh
man, that was brutal.
I always talk about will I order it, I won't, if you don't mind me horning in on your action here. But I did order. Let's see. I went with House of M Omnibus, the Flash Omnibus, the Phantom Stranger Omnibus, and there were a couple other ones like the Simpson Treehouse one. But yeah, it was ugly.
Yeah.
A wallet buster.
Also, they've announced a new omnibus now that Marvel has all the Fox stuff. Planet of the Apes omnibus. And at first I was like, oh, cool. Yeah. That'll be great. And they're going to be reprinting the Marvel stuff. And they announced they're going to be reprinting all the issues of Adventures of the Planet of the Apes. Joe, why would that be a freaking?
Weren't they just redoing the movies?
It was colorized reprints of the movie adaptations from the magazines. It lasted 11 issues.
Oof.
They're going to do an omnibus of an 11-issue series that is colorized art from the black and white magazines. Why not just do the magazines? I am not buying an omnibus that at most would be 250 pages.
Just in case you wonder, there were 29 issues of the black and white magazine. And they're very, very, most of them are expensive. The last one is like $120 near mint, but good luck finding them near mint. Yeah, just fine. Do the color ones. Do the black and white. Should we take a bet as to whether or not it will be canceled?
It's been announced, but it's not been in previews yet. And when it's in previews, I'm going to really be taking a look at it, because if it is just the color comics, that's 11 comics for an omnibus. That's fewer comics than is in a Marvel Epic collection.
You know, you could go to Boom and get their collection that they published in 2017 that has 1 through 4, 6, 8, 11, 13, 14, 19, 20, 23, and 26 through 28. And get more. Or just go find the comics. They're not that terribly hard to find.
I like a good omnibus, but man, this one, it's like the Devil Dinosaur omnibus. Did I order that? I'm a huge Kirby fan. Did I order that? No. Why? It was 9 issues. I just waited and they put it out as a regular paperback. Second, I am tired a lot. Part of it is that the heat has been insane here in the Twin Cities. Starting on Sunday, it got in the 90s and stayed. We actually got to, on Monday, 102 degrees. I was at the group on Monday night. When I got that, I went to one that I don't normally go to, and it's one the last few times I've gone. I take the clients outside because they have wheelchairs and they like to sit outside and play cards and stuff. One of the things that Dave Sims said that I firmly believe, anything done for the first time unleashes a demon. First time I took them outside, I'm the guy who takes them outside. So every time I show up, they wanted to go outside. And one of the clients just kept on and on and on about wanting to go outside. So I took her to the front door and opened the door. Didn't let her go outside because we, at 102 with 110 heat index, it could kill her. I just opened the door, and it was one of those where it was super hot and the wind was blowing hard. So this hot, moist wind comes in, and she goes, "Oh, that's horrible." And I said, "Yeah, that's why we're not going outside." Both jobs have been very draining. I don't feel like I have a lot of time to do much of anything. I don't even want to talk about the stuff I got to do on Saturday to get the house to where it's livable. But I'm tired. I'm just exhausted. It's going to be a pretty busy weekend because I've got work on Sunday and then I've got the pay-per-view to cover. But July 4th weekend, which when you guys get this, July 4th weekend is the one that's coming up. I've made it so that I have most of that weekend off. I think I'm doing an evening shift on Saturday. I come in as everybody's having supper, and then they go to bed, and I have 3 hours on a Saturday night all alone at the group home to just watch Svengoolie. Last thing I'm freaking on, notice there are no comic freakings. One of the things that I do at work when I'm between calls and there's not a lot to do, I play the game Diablo 2 because it's a game that you can play and then pause and play and then pause and play and then pause. But I have been stuck on this one area for a month now. And every time I play, it's like, all right, I just want to get past this area. Just want to get past it. And I get to it, and I'm doing great. And, I'm finally going to make it. You have died. God damn it. I yell so loud, I'm sure the neighbors hear me. I just want to get past this area. I'm not even toward the end of the game. It's toward I'd say I'm in the last third of the game. But there's just this one area. And no matter what, I'm not clicking fast enough. I'm not healing fast enough, whatever. I die. And it's very frustrating and very upsetting. And Joe, what are you geeking on?
Oh, I had a great week in terms of watching television. Last episode of Obi-Wan. Oh, really amazing. Every Thursday, I get a hold of my old buddy Turbo, and we just talk. Politics, comics, whatever. I told him after watching it, if you don't watch this episode, because he usually watches it Thursday night, I said, don't call me Thursday, watch it, call me Friday. And he said, okay, I'll watch it. And we basically went I should have recorded it because it was podcast worthy. We just talked. We loved it. We thought it was fantastic. They hit all the buttons. They closed all the continuity things. I'm not going to talk about it any more than that. If you haven't watched it, I mean, no, again, we've bitched about nobody hates their stuff more than Star Wars fans, Star Trek fans, Orville fans, whatever. Fantastic episode. Star Trek, Strange New Worlds, fantastic. Another episode actually had me crying towards the end. But it was just a fantastic all-around episode. This week's Orville was also amazing. People complaining because he's not doing the guttural humor. Well, here's where I find, I understand why you enjoyed it. It was cute. But he did it because Fox wanted him to. In order for him to get his love affair program to Star Trek on, he had to kind of give way to what the networks wanted. And, of course, if you watched Orville, you know by the time the end of season 2, it turned decidedly dark. The humor was there, but it wasn't in your face, Family Guy in space type humor. Not that there was a lot of that in the first season, but that was just kind of it.
And the thing was, the whole idea of it's a comedy Star Trek is what kept me from watching it. Because it's like, it's going to be, the captain and his first mate are divorced. This sounds like every bad sitcom on CBS.
And you'd think it would be, but it wasn't. I mean, I jumped on in the second season, and I've been slowly picking up on the first season. I would say go ahead and watch it. Just realize as it goes on, they get more serious. Because now, Seth MacFarlane said this in interviews, this is the show he wants to do. It was a similar thing when J. Michael Straczynski announced, I'm going to do a new Babylon 5 that's been ordered by the CW network. And people went nuts. And I'm like, dude, the creator himself is saying, I'm a better writer than I was, those 20 years ago when Babylon 5 came out. And it's going to be, it's essentially a reboot. It's not a continuation. New cast, new characters. He's well aware, he probably doesn't have the surprise of the Shadows. Shadows might not even be in it. Oh my God. People thought they said he was going to go out and make Greedo shoot first or something like that. And you're like, dude, this is the creator himself. and you're already telling him he's doing it wrong. No, the fact that this is what McFarlane wanted to do with Orville, I'm more than happy to sit down and go with it. Matter of fact, the only thing I'm really freaking on, Obi-Wan's over, Star Trek Strange New Worlds got 2 more episodes, and I've only got 7 more on Orville. And by the time this airs, it'll be 1 on Star Trek. Oh, whatever. I did start Star Trek season 4 of Discovery. I just did 1 episode because I had some time to kill and the pizza to eat, so it worked out pretty good. And I'm looking forward to seeing where they go with that. Reading-wise, we pretty much talked about things I did read. A non-comic thing I'm reading is Still All Right. Kenny Loggins with Jason Turbo, a memoir. Not only is it co-written by Kenny Loggins, but I got an autograph copy because you can order these things through PremierCollectibles.com, America's largest autograph bookstore. And believe me, if I had more money than good looks, I would be ordering just because autographs of people I probably never would meet. And I've actually met Kenny Loggins. One of my dear friends who, again, has passed away, was a Kenny Loggins fan club member. And back then, you could get backstage passes after the concert to go backstage and meet him. The first time I had to bow out because I think I had the flu. Second time was at the fair. I remember going up and over the fence to go back to meet him. And Michael, who sings with him? Michael McDonough? Why can't I think of his name? I know I'm pronouncing it right. But the book is fascinating. You know, I absolutely love these tell-all, not really tell-all, but just how he grew up. He grew up knowing he liked music. He grew up in a wild time. Musical influences he loved are people that I loved. And just his slow evolution from, first of all, being getting together with Messina, and then when they finally drifted apart, becoming a solo artist, becoming the movie soundtrack guy. Just fascinating. You know, I call it inside baseball, but I just love stories like these. I love the books like these. I love whether it's pro wrestling, comics, or in this case, a rock star. Speaking of that, I watched a couple of HBO Max documentaries. I can't even talk. I'm so excited. Documentaries. Yeah, I'm saying it right. The first one, Robin Williams, Come Inside My Head. Just obviously about Robin Williams. A lot of interviews, a lot of things that they take basically interviews from him, interviews from people that knew him, his brother, and they kind of wrap it all together in his story. And it starts out, of course, he's on. What's the name of that show where the Dollar guy sits across from you and asks questions in front of a college audience?
That's Inside the Actor's Studio.
And he was talking with Robin Williams, and this is how it opens. And he says, Robin, are you thinking fast enough? Just what the hell is going on inside your head? And everybody laughs. And Robin starts laughing, and he gets up and he does a spot-on imitation of him. Well, you've asked me such things of what's going on inside my head. Let's find out. And he puts his head on his scalp, opens up, and this is my mind. It's going at 25 miles an hour. The man was just a manic genius. I'm reading a book about him as well. Similar thing. This is one of those more detailed books. I haven't really talked about it because I'm like only about 4 chapters in. Just an amazing man, a tragedy, how it ends up. You know, you kind of watch along and you're just kind of, you're amazed with his performances, where he ends up, how he ends up, and then, you know, what was it Gary Marshall talks about? My kid comes and goes, Dad, my kid doesn't watch Happy Days. It's boring. Why don't you put a spaceman on it? Which I guess was the origin of Mark for Mark. In that similar vein, we found one called Mel Brooks Unwrapped, also on HBO Max. Again, Mel Brooks, another guy. He does not give straight interviews. But what's funny is the guy who interviewed him in current time was also someone who interviewed him in previous times. And it kind of goes from, who the hell are you? To, what? You interviewed me how long ago? To gradual acceptance. And you just get a glimpse behind the brilliance that is Mel Brooks, his humor, how crazy he is. When and he probably doesn't really have the time, nor does he want to sit down and write a book of his memoirs or be interviewed on a serious documentary. But, you're pretty close with this one with Unwrapped. And it was just hilarious to watch and a lot of fun, and you get a great insight of what's going on. Who knows, Cory, maybe if we keep doing this, somebody will do a documentary on us, even though we still don't have a Wikipedia page.
And I can have one because I'm a writer for PW Insider and have been talked about as a writer for PW Insider. Somebody said, oh, it's because nobody talks about you guys. I am talked about. I am a national treasure.
Just like Zirconia. Anyways, Cory, what are you geeking on?
I want to read something based on you talking about how Seth MacFarlane talked about what he had to do to get Orville on Fox. This is from the blog of Ken Levine, who's a TV writer. He wrote for MASH, Cheers, Frasier, Wings, tons and tons of shows. One time my writing partner, David Isaacs, and I got a network note that we didn't necessarily agree with. These were second draft notes on a pilot we had written for Fox. The notes from Fox was this: add a hot babe. I was somewhat thrown by this. Where, I asked, there's no real organic reason for adding a bombshell to this sophisticated corporate environment. These people are all Aaron Sorkins. They said, we know. She doesn't have to be in the corporation. We don't care where you put her, but we want a super hot girl on the show. Why? We asked. Their answer, because this is Fox. I said, okay, I have to applaud you for your honesty. It ended all pushback. Clearly, this was not an argument we were going to win, but at least we knew why. We decided she could be a waitress at the first floor coffee shop, which we had to invent. We then took one of the scenes between the characters, set it in a coffee shop, bringing the hot waitress over 2 or 3 times. Fox was happy. The president didn't pick up the show ultimately, but they were happy. That's how it works, kids.
Especially when you're starting out and you don't have the clout to do what you want. We're not all Steven Spielberg.
This was a guy who had tons of clout, and it's still, we're Fox. You got to have a hot girl.
This is what we want. You need to put a dog in that cartoon and end up with a funny dog joke.
Speaking of all the geek shows, there's been a long time where I'm going, I don't have time to watch all these great geek shows. I don't have the time to keep up on things. And then Monday night, I'm at the group home, and I realize how cool it is that there's so many geek shows on that I don't even have time to watch them all. I remember times, going all the way back. Go back to the 70s where all the geek shows were terrible. Buck Rogers was just awful. Just awful. Quark, which I was a kid and thought was funny. I've gone back and watched it. It's awful. Misfits of Science, Manimal, Knight Rider. They were all terrible. Aimed at 4-year-olds. Think about the fact that we have so much great TV for us nerds. And on top of that, Heroes and Icons every night has all Star Trek. We start with the original, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise. And there are times when I'm at the group home and everybody's in bed and I'm kind of fried and burned out. I'll turn it on. Oh, I haven't seen this episode since it aired because I don't watch a lot of reruns. Oh, it's been long enough that I don't remember the details of this episode. And I watched Deep Space Nine. And first thing that I thought after about 20 minutes into the show, thinking about Deep Space Nine and Next Generation, God, they like to shit on Miles O'Brien. So many terrible fucking things happened to him. He was just your average guy, just an engineer, and it's okay. You need to be in prison for 20 years in your mind, and then you'll have post-traumatic stress disorder. And we're going to do this horrible thing to you, and this horrible thing, and this horrible thing. And it was just, wow. I could turn on a TV and on digital, not even on cable, on digital TV. Look, they're showing all Star Trek series. And if you want to watch them, you can actually go to Twitter, the hashtag All Star Trek. They have really cool discussions of people who are watching each episode and talking about it. Not like it's a new episode, but it's like, wow, they really did. This was really good. And you don't have to put up with any fanboy belly aching because they're not going to be watching the old stuff. Let's see. Next, if you are into gaming, computer gaming, Amazon is about to give away 30 free games on Prime Day, and not bullshit games either. They're giving away stuff like Just Cause. They're giving away stuff like Far Cry, Borderlands. They're giving away high dollar stuff. Even if you're not going to play it right now, you may want to just claim it so that you've got all these computer games. I talked about how Epic Game Store gives away games every week. Amazon Prime gives away games every month, and for Prime Day, they're giving away 30 games. I have more computer games than time to play, and again, isn't that wonderful? Isn't that cool? I try to look at things in a positive way. Today at work, I was given 2 more reports to work on. They were looking at my productivity, and they said, we notice on the reports you're really good at going into detail. We're going to give you 2 more reports. The good thing about it is it means less time on the phone, less time talking to jerks, and job security. Because if they keep handing me reports and stuff that go to the client, they obviously aren't going to be getting rid of me. And I know that, Cory, you've had this job for 6 years. Yeah, but you still have that thought in your head when you see this company's laying off a bunch of people and this company's laying off a bunch of people. Good thing is we're still hiring people, and they're really happy with me at both jobs. I like me some job security because, man, I can't tell you how many times it's, well, the economy started to tank. We got to get rid of 25% of our workers. Bye. And this is also going to be a really weird recession because it's the first recession I can ever think of where we're in a recession, but unemployment is less than 4%. I've never lived through a recession with low unemployment. The last thing I am geeking on is that I'm reading more older comics. I'm up to issue 50 on Conan. Oh, we did not know how good we had it with John Buscema. I am now at the end of Astonishing Tales with Kazar, and it has taken a step up. It's not, oh, look, here's a human who thinks he's a god, and Kazar needs to kill him. It's still not great. Don't get me wrong. Kazar is not a book that I say, oh, you should be going out and buying those masterworks at the $300 price for number 1 and 2. No, it's still not great. But the art's good. And when they announced that Adventures of the Planet of the Apes Omnibus, I said, I bought those black and white magazines back in the 90s when no one cared. So they're right here, right next to me. They're going to be next up after I'm done with Kazar. I like reading the old 70s Marvel stuff. It's always going to be where I feel, it's always going to be that nostalgia bump for me because it's the stuff I started with. Even if it's stuff that I didn't read at the time, they were doing pretty much the same style across most of Marvel. So, yeah, I like me my 70s Marvel. Butch and I will always be talking about it. Now, AEW is coming to Minneapolis on my birthday. So I have put in to get press passes. I have emailed Butch. Joe, I want to ask the listeners something. Send in what you think Butch's excuse will be for not going. And the one who gets it right will get a Cory prize. And I will actually send my prizes out.
Well, if I ever get together and have you autograph the Joe prizes, I can give them out.
Believe it or not, kids, you've listened to us blather on about funny books for an hour and a half.